Hi, my name is Elaine Bishop, and one December morning, my mother looked me in the eye and said, "We all agreed you're not welcome at Christmas." I didn't yell, I didn't plead. I simply stopped paying the mortgage for the house they planned to celebrate in. But here's the thing, that wasn't the moment that broke me. What broke me was knowing they'd decided long before that voicemail. Quietly, neatly. While I paid the bills, strung the lights, restocked their fridge, and kept their secrets. Before I take you deeper into this story, tell us where you are watching from. Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because what happened next, it didn't just change a holiday, it changed everything. That morning I opened my inbox expecting the usual chaos. There's always one of those passive-aggressive group emails, the kind where Jenna, my sister, pretends she's being helpful by assigning everyone a dish, as if we're employees at some corporate potluck. I even braced myself for her notorious Christmas spreadsheet, the one where she ranks contributions like we're contestants in a reality show, best side dish, most festive dessert, least helpful guest. But the inbox was empty. I hit refresh. Once, twice, then a third time like some desperate gambler pulling a slot machine lever. Still nothing. The silence was too loud. I knew this wasn't about timing. This was something planned, something decided. I went to the shared family Google Drive, the one that used to be a messy collection of playlists, holiday photos, and recipes Mom pretended were hers, but came from Pinterest. The folder was gone, not archived, not renamed, just gone. I stared at the screen for a moment, feeling something tighten in my chest. I typed out a short message to Jenna. "Hey, did you move the holiday folder?" No reply. 38 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was from Mom. "Figured you'd be busy this year. Don't stress about Christmas." That was it. No hello. No, "we'll miss you." Just a casual dismissal like I was an afterthought. That night, I didn't cry. I don't cry over predictable things anymore. Instead, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the phone face down on the nightstand, my mind running over every memory, like flipping through photos I no longer wanted to see. It wasn't just this Christmas. It was last Christmas, too. The one where I showed up late because I had to work. I came through the door with my arms full of gifts and cookies I'd baked at 2 a.m. Not a single person looked up. The table was full. Every chair is taken. I ended up standing by the kitchen counter with a paper plate balanced on my arm. Someone mumbled, "Look who decided to show up." They all laughed. I didn't even know who said it because it didn't matter. They all thought it was funny. I told myself it wasn't intentional. People get tired, holidays are stressful. But deep down, I think I knew. This year there were no excuses left. No invitations. No fake smiles. It felt deliberate, like they had a secret meeting and voted me out. That night I opened my laptop and pulled up my budget spreadsheet. Line 21 in bold mortgage, Asheville house. $1, $368.20 auto payment. The same line that's been there every month for the last 3 years. They live in that house. They eat at that table. They throw birthday parties and baby showers there. And I paid for it. Not once did anyone ask if I wanted to join them. I didn't cancel the payment that night. But I closed the file with a kind of finality that felt heavier than anger. I started asking myself questions I'd never let myself ask before. Why am I paying for a life I'm not even invited to? Why am I holding together a family that doesn't see me? I didn't text anyone. I didn't post on social media. I just sat in that quiet apartment of mine, no Christmas tree, no decorations. 5 days later, the voicemail came. It was around 4:00 p.m. I had just walked in from grocery shopping, a bag of celery milk and a bottle of wine dangling from my wrist. The screen lit up Mom. I hit play. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "The family talked, and we just think it might be easier if you don't come this year. It's nothing personal." We all agreed. You know how things get. No hesitation, no guilt, just a verdict. I set the bag down, slowly replayed it twice, and hit save. Later that night, I checked the old family group chat, the real bishops. The name Jenna gave us 2 years ago after too many mimosas. The chat was gone. I clicked on Holiday Hysteria, the group thread from last year. Archived, deleted, erased. I scrolled through my inbox again, noticing the pattern. No calendar invites, no reminders. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was a clean deletion, like I had been scrubbed from their December. I thought I could shrug it off. But around 10 p.m., curiosity got the better of me. I opened Facebook and saw a photo on my cousin Madison's page. A group selfie. 12 people all smiling gathered around Mom's dining table. The caption read, "Doing what's best for the whole family isn't always easy, but it's worth it." My stomach didn't drop. It hardened. I zoomed in. Jenna, glass of wine in hand. Mom at the head of the table, hand on Madison's shoulder like she was passing down a crown. There was no empty chair, no space for me. I muted the post, turned off my phone, and sat in the dark with my thoughts. The next morning, I brushed my teeth while replaying Mom's voicemail. We all agreed. "You're not welcome." She said it like an HR manager cutting someone loose. I didn't cry. I didn't call her back. Instead, I opened my laptop and started a new document titled Exit Plan. I typed out every financial detail I had kept quiet for years. Mortgage payments, 2020 to 2023. Utilities, gas, electric, and internet. Property taxes I covered when Mom's check bounced. Renovation costs, the oven. I fixed the granite countertops I bought. Each line was like peeling back a layer of resentment I didn't know had hardened into something sharp. When I finished, I sat back and stared at my hands. My fingers trembled slightly, like they were ready to let go. The following afternoon, Jenna texted, "You always made things tense. Honestly, it's better this way. You were never really good at being part of this family." I stared at the screen, the words burning. I didn't reply. I just saved the screenshot in my exit plan folder. That night, I opened a bottle of wine and scrolled through old photos on my phone. Pictures from past Christmases. 3 years ago, I'd overnighted gifts to Mom's house because I couldn't make the drive. A bracelet Jenna wanted, a scarf Mom admired. In the photos posted from that morning, they were all smiling with my gifts, but the tags read, "From all of us." No one corrected it, not even Mom. Something in me solidified. I closed the photo app, opened my banking dashboard, and stared at the next mortgage payment scheduled to hit in 3 days. This time, I didn't just stare. I hovered over the cancel button. I didn't click it yet, but I knew I would. Because that morning, I stopped being the one holding everything together, and I started being the one who would let it all fall. The next morning, I made oatmeal I barely tasted and sat at the small table by my window, watching a jay hop along the railing as if he had something urgent to tell me. I muted my phone and opened the exit plan again. I added dates, confirmation numbers, and bank screenshots. Not to wave in anyone's face, just so, when I doubted myself later, I'd have a paper trail to hand back to my own heart. See, you weren't imagining it. By late afternoon, I was pacing. I kept hearing the sentence the way she said it, smooth and professional, like a dentist reminding a child to floss. We all agreed, as if democracy made it kind, as if vote tallies could soften exile. I clicked back to the mortgage portal, typed my password, and waited for the dashboard to load. The next withdrawal blinked in calm blue. I scanned the past year, those neat rows of payments lined up like soldiers who never asked what battle they were fighting. I breathed in slow and steady and did what I knew I was going to do the moment the voicemail ended. I turned off autopay. No fireworks, no alarm bells. Just a neutral confirmation banner and a silent apartment, the refrigerator humming like a witness who'd already taken an oath. I stared at the screen long enough to memorize the shape of my own decision, then closed the laptop and put on a kettle. I didn't celebrate. I didn't second guess. I just made tea and let the steam fog the window until my face disappeared behind it. 2 hours later, a notification popped up from a cousin's public post. I shouldn't have looked. I did anyway. Another picture at my mother's house, Barbara's house as she liked to correct me, even though I could point with receipts to every corner my money had touched. 12 faces again. Same dining room. Same centerpiece I'd carried across state lines in a box cushioned with dish towels from my kitchen. The caption made me laugh out loud, a sharp sound in the quiet. Sometimes tough choices bring the family closer. I wanted to comment closer to what the electricity panel. Instead, I locked the phone and put it under a stack of mail like I could muffle it. The next day, I logged into the utility accounts. Electric, gas, internet, homeowner's insurance. All opened in my name. That first year, Mom claimed she was transitioning off teaching. The passwords came back easily, muscle memory built from years of being the one who handled the boring stuff. I didn't slam anything shut. I walked each account through a clean exit final bill date, forwarding address, and confirmation email saved to the folder. I CC'd a second inbox. I rarely used a habit from work, when I needed backups for people who forgot I existed, until they needed a file at 9 p.m. When I finished, I put both palms flat on the table and waited for a feeling to arrive. Guilt relief. Fear. All I got was quiet. The kind that doesn't echo, the kind that just sits with you, like a friend who doesn't ask you to explain your choices. Around lunchtime, Jenna texted again, as if practice could make cruelty precise. You thrive on drama. This is exhausting. Mom's doing what's best for everyone. Grow up. I typed a reply I didn't send. I grew up in a house where my name paid the bills and never made the mantle. I erased it, took a deep breath, and let her words slide off like rain off a waxed coat. I took a screenshot and filed it. Documentation isn't revenge, it's clarity. That evening, I let myself do a ritual I hadn't allowed in years. I pulled out a cardboard box marked holiday in black marker and opened it on the floor. The scent of artificial pine did that thing to my chest where memory squeezes before it lets go. String lights, a tin of hooks, little gold stars I'd bought during a clearance binge and never used because last year Jenna had a vision that didn't include anything I'd bring. I took out a single star and set it on the windowsill. One light, one small thing. Not because I was starting over, because I was staying with myself. 2 days passed. No calls. No, are you okay? If they noticed a change on any account, they didn't let me know. I stuck to my routines and let the calendar slide toward the 24th. On the morning of Christmas Eve, Asheville's forecast showed a gray sky and a chance of wind. My forecast showed eggs on toast and a bruise-colored sweater I'd almost given to Mom last year, but kept because it felt like armor on bad days. I brewed coffee and opened my planner. In the space I'd originally blocked off for a 5-hour drive and a forced smile, I wrote instead, "First quiet Christmas." I underlined it twice, then smiled at how simple the sentence looked, how little it asked of me beyond staying honest. At 5:31 p.m., the group text I wasn't supposed to be in anymore lit up my screen. I don't know which cousin accidentally looped me back and I didn't care. The first message made me set my cup down mid-air. Does anyone have a number for Duke? The lights just went out. The oven died. Half the food is raw. Another bubble popped up before I could decide if I wanted to mute the thread or savor it. Power company says the account holder closed it. Mom is freaking. Can someone call Elaine? I didn't answer. The quiet in my apartment felt layered. Not smug, not mean, just fair, like a scale finally settling after years of being nudged. I pictured Barbara in that kitchen, the narrow line between her eyebrows deepening as she tried a polite tone with customer service and couldn't sustain it. I pictured Jenna lifting the breaker panel lid like she knew what she was looking at. I pictured candles being fetched, the wrong kind, scented and smoky, competing with gravy and guilt. Another message pinged. Elaine, did you do this? I turned my phone face down and let the question sit in the dark with me. The answer was bigger than a text. I hadn't done anything to them. I'd simply stopped doing everything for them. Somewhere around 6:20, snow began to sift down slow and steady, the kind that looks like a screensaver from 20 years ago. I wrapped myself in a blanket and listened to the building settle. In a parallel timeline, I would have been in a car knuckles white around the steering wheel rehearsing breath and forgiveness. In this one, I tucked my feet under me, sipped tea, and didn't perform a version of myself no one had asked to see truthfully. At 7:03, my phone buzzed again. This time a private message from Madison, who rarely contacted me unless it was to borrow a dress or a lecture note. Aunt Barbara is calling you selfish. She told everyone you're unstable. People are asking what happened. I didn't say anything, just FYI. I stared at the words and felt the strangest thing, weightlessness. They were still talking about me building a story from old vocabulary they'd refined over years of repetition. But I didn't need to anchor it anymore. Let them spin. I didn't owe them gravity. A little after 8, a different notification slid across the top of my screen. Lila. The only one in that house who still looked directly at me instead of at the version of me they preferred. I have a recording. From the vote. I'm sorry. Do you want it? I didn't exhale until I was sure the air wouldn't come out as a sob. Send it. I typed back. Seconds later, a file arrived. On the first play, I only heard the rhythm, casual cruelty sips of wine, the clink of a fork against a plate like a metronome to their decision. On the second play, I heard the words, Jenna first. She's calculated. Nothing's ever just kind with her, it's always a performance. Barbara convenient when the bills need paying, a headache when she asks for respect. Grant my cousin by marriage the spreadsheet prince who offered unsolicited advice, like party favors. Don't change anything legal. Keep her on the loan. Safer that way. No need to stir it up. And then laughter, the kind people use when they're afraid of their silence. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't pace. I sat very still, the recording playing against the wall like a bad radio, and I let the honesty of it wash over me. It is a strange relief to hear out loud the thing you've been told you're ungenerous for suspecting. My mother did not just forget me. She managed me. And when management failed, she erased. I forwarded the file to my email to my backup and a cloud folder named with a neutral string of numbers. I didn't plan a press conference. I made a list. 3 names, 3 addresses, 3 quiet recipients who would care more about facts than about family optics. 1. The director of the charity board, Madison, loved tagging the one who credited the Bishop family home last year for opening its doors to the community. 2. The regional manager at the bank where Grant worked, a man who had once told me at a barbecue that he prized integrity above all. 3. A local reporter I'd collaborated with years earlier when our office ran a winter coat drive, a woman who asked careful questions and didn't get bored when answers were inconvenient. I wrote a single paragraph for each, attached the spreadsheet of payments, the copy of the deed with my name as co-borrower and not owner, the utility history, and in one case only the audio file. No threats, no adjectives, just dates, amounts, and a line at the end. Please correct your records. Thank you. Then I closed the laptop, made chamomile tea, and watched my ceiling like stars might appear if I were patient. On Christmas morning, I woke before the light made up its mind. No alarm, no timetable, no traffic to dread. I brewed coffee slowly enough to feel each step measure pour weight. I buttered toast and ate it warm, not standing at a kitchen island with one ear tuned to criticism. I pulled on boots and went for a walk, the kind where your breath is visible and earnest. The world felt underpopulated, just me, a pair of pigeons negotiating for crumbs, and a jogger with a red scarf bright as a flare. When I got back, there was a cream envelope in my mailbox, heavy stock, Barbara's slanted handwriting on the front like a recipe card. Inside, a card embossed in gold with a message that hovered between apology and advertisement. I hope we can find our way back to the table. Merry Christmas, Mom. No sorry, no recognition. Just a postcard from a country where consequences are optional if the decor photographs well. I slid it into a drawer, not the trash. I wasn't punishing anyone. I was preserving the record of who they chose to be when it mattered. By late afternoon, the quiet was so complete I could hear every ice pellet tick the window. I curled up with a book I'd been carrying from room to room for months, kept losing the page when obligation called. 30 minutes in my phone vibrated against the cushion. Lila again. The charity page pulled the post. They're reviewing credits. Grant is MIA. Mom's furious. She says you're cruel. Also, Grandma asked if you were warm. That's all she said. The way my throat tightened surprised me. I typed, "Tell her yes," and set the phone down before kindness could crack me open. A minute later, it buzzed again. A number I recognized from the bank. I let it ring out, then checked the voicemail. A crisp voice. "Ms. Bishop, this is an urgent matter regarding the loan you co-signed for the Asheville property. We need to discuss recent changes to your payment structure and liability." I wrote the number in my notebook. Then I opened the top drawer, pulled out a packet I'd had notarized a week earlier, when worrying had kept me upright past midnight. Transfer of responsibility, clean and final. I tucked it into my bag. I wasn't going to argue about a chair at a table anymore. I was going to pull my name off the leg that kept the table from wobbling. The next business day, I took an early bus into town, the kind of ride where commuters stare at the same point until it yields a different truth. The loan officer knew my name. People always remember the ones who don't complain and pay on time. I slid the documents across the desk, each page like a confirmation email to my spine. "Yes," I said when she asked the question she's paid to ask. "I understand I am relinquishing all rights to the asset. No, I will not be responsible for any future payments. The owner of the deed will handle those. Yes, I know exactly what this means." The pen felt heavier than usual. When the last signature dried, the officer stood to shake my hand like we'd concluded a sale. I didn't feel sold. I felt refreshed. To myself. Outside, the air bit at the edge of my sleeves in that thrilling way that winter sometimes feels like an honest friend. I walked 3 blocks out of my way just to pass a florist with a window that never got dusty. A cluster of paperwhites leaned toward the glass like they had something to confess. I kept walking. By the time I got home, there were 6 missed calls, 3 texts, and an email from Jenna that tried to turn burned food and an unpaid bill into a moral parable. "You humiliated Mom. People are talking. You could have handled this privately like an adult." I put the phone on the counter, poured water, and let a smile show up without apology. I didn't humiliate anyone. Spotlight will do what it does when you take your hand off the dimmer. That evening, I took the cardboard holiday box and slid it back under the bed. 1 star on the windowsill was enough. I made a simple dinner. Not the kind that earns compliments, the kind that fills you. I ate at my table, the one that wobbles a little if you lean too hard on the left side, and it felt sturdy in the only way that matters. It belonged to me. Around 10, a text from Ethan, the cousin who always stood a little outside the joke circle, appeared. "You okay? Not asking for anyone? Just me." I stared at it, felt a warmth that didn't demand anything, and typed back, "I'm good. Thank you." Then, because truth likes company, I added, "I'm better than I've been in years." I set the phone down, turned off the lamp, and let the room darken without fear. Somewhere, a floorboard settled in the apartment above me, a small sound like a house exhaling. I pulled the blanket to my chin and listened to my own heart behave itself. In the morning, the first email I saw was from the charity board. A single line that did more for my peace than any apology ever could. "We've corrected our records and appreciate the documentation. No drama, just alignment." I forwarded the note to myself and closed the laptop. I had a life to get to. It looked from the outside like the most ordinary thing in the world. Laundry, a grocery list, a mug in the sink, boots by the door. On the inside, it was a cathedral, quiet, sturdy mine. Somewhere in that other house, they were figuring out who would call the power company, who would write the next check, who would craft the narrative everyone could live with. I hoped they chose something generous for once, if not to me, then to their future. As for me, I didn't ask to be invited back. I didn't rehearse speeches for next December. I stood by my window, touched the small gold star with the tip of my finger, and whispered the thing I hadn't allowed myself to believe. Until now, I am not hard to love. I am hard to use. The distinction, it turns out, can light a room all by itself. Later that evening, I stood by the window of my apartment watching the city settle into holiday quiet. The streets below shimmered faintly with blue and gold lights, festive, distant, unreal. My phone lay silent on the counter. No texts, no missed calls, not even a thinking of you. That night, I didn't pour wine. I didn't light a candle. I opened my laptop again not to scroll, but to see something more honest than any photo frame had ever shown me: the spreadsheet. Column after column of dates, bank withdrawals, utility transfers, mortgage debits, appliance receipts. I had built their comfort brick by invisible brick. I had kept the heat on in rooms I wasn't welcome in. I paused on the line for the July gas bill. I remembered that month. They hosted a baby shower for Madison in the sunroom I'd paid to insulate, and I wasn't even invited. The photos were tagged with phrases like, "Family is everything," and "So lucky to have a tribe like this." I had liked the post then out of reflex. I didn't like it anymore. At 9:46 p.m., I received a message, not from Jenna, not from Mom, but from a cousin, an unassuming one I hadn't spoken to in months. It was short. "Hey, saw something tonight. Thought of you. Hope you're okay." I didn't answer, because I wasn't. But I also wasn't broken. I was becoming something sharper. At 10:22, I made the mistake of checking Facebook again. A new photo had gone up. A wide shot of Mom's dining table. 12 chairs all full. The candlesticks I'd gifted her 2 Christmases ago glowed faintly in the center. The same ones she'd told me were too modern but kept anyway. Madison sat to Mom's left, laughing with her hand raised mid-story. Jenna clutched a glass of wine like she was the one paying for it. The caption read, "Doing what's best for the whole family isn't always easy, but it's worth it." My chest didn't hurt. Not exactly. But something behind my eyes pulsed. I zoomed in. I could see the chair, the one I reupholstered on my own when Mom said the original fabric was tired. They didn't move it. They just filled it. My absence hadn't been noticed. It had been pre-approved. I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I didn't even save the image. I just closed the tab and stared into the nothingness for a full minute, letting the quiet tell me what no one else dared to say. Then I opened a blank document and typed the title in all caps, "Exit Plan." I began documenting, not out of spite, but because someday someone was going to retell this story. And when they did, I didn't want them to say I just drifted away or got distant. I wanted them to understand what I had carried silently while they clinked glasses and edited me out of the frame. I wrote down every Christmas gift I bought on behalf of the group. Every utility bill I covered was just this once. Every text I swallowed instead of sending. Every dinner I skipped so someone else could have the last word. Every debt paid in silence. Every smile returned with absence. I didn't cry, not even when I got to the biggest number of all: the mortgage. 3 years. $1,368.20 per month. Quietly. On time. Unacknowledged. I added it up. I stared at the total. It was higher than I'd expected, and I had expected it to be brutal. I saved the file, closed the laptop, sat in the stillness of my apartment. My lights were on. My heat was working. My tree wasn't decorated, but I didn't care. I was finally living somewhere I was allowed to exist. And this time, I would not disappear quietly. I would leave with the records. The morning after I started the exit plan, everything was quieter. Not just outside, but inside me. That kind of quiet you don't notice right away, like waking up to a house without heat. It seeps into your chest slowly. Then you realize you're freezing and that you've been cold for years. I made oatmeal. Didn't even sweeten it. Just ate it bland, basic, sustaining. My coffee didn't taste like anything. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was just done. My inbox was empty. My phone didn't ring. No one asked if I was still coming. No one followed up. And that somehow spoke louder than anything they could have said. At noon, I took out the folder physically and digitally and laid everything out. Not for drama, for clarity. I opened bank statements, credit card bills, emails confirming payments and deliveries. I printed out photos, ones where I had taken the picture instead of being in it, ones where they were smiling with things I had paid for without ever naming the person behind the gesture. There was the chandelier I bought for Mom when she said the old one made the house look tired. There were the lawn chairs I sent when she wanted to host the 4th of July and couldn't afford nice ones right now. There was the ice maker, the security system, the wreath from that overpriced boutique she said she wished she had. It all added up not just in dollars but in evidence that I was there, even when they claimed I wasn't. At 2:18 p.m., my phone buzzed, not with a text, a Facebook memory, from 3 years ago. A box of gifts wrapped in gold foil labeled carefully in my handwriting, to Jenna, to Mom, to Kayla. I remembered how late I stayed up that night wrapping them all, making sure every ribbon was curled, making sure the tags were legible, making sure I was in some small way seen. But in the photos they posted that year, all the tags had been removed. The caption read, "So blessed to have a family that gives from the heart." I was never tagged. I was never thanked. It was like I had mailed joy into the void. At 4:03, I sat down again. This time I didn't cry. I pulled up the mortgage account and went through the payment history. Each transaction neat, reliable, unfailing. 36 months. 1,360 hours 20 telums. Without a single missed payment. I did the math. Nearly $50,000. For a house I wasn't welcome in. For a home that no longer carried my name. I clicked on the Settings tab. My hand hovered for a moment. I almost clicked away. Some old reflex one that still believed maybe they'd come around. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. But then I heard Mom's voice in my head again, calm and unbothered. We all agreed. You're not welcome at Christmas. And I clicked, Cancel autopay. A tiny pop-up appeared. Are you sure? I laughed under my breath. That was the first time anyone had asked me that in 3 years. Yes, I clicked. And just like that, for the first time in 3 years, the house would feel the absence of me. I didn't slam anything. I didn't write a message. I didn't post a cryptic status on social media. I simply exited. They wouldn't notice immediately. The house would stay warm for a few more days. The water would still run. The lights would hum. But eventually the comfort would flicker. And when it did, they would look for someone to blame. But there would be no one there. Only themselves and the silence I left behind. I walked to the window and looked out at the street below. It had started to snow again. Just light flurries brushing rooftops, like apologies that came too late. I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and sat in the armchair I never used. The one I had bought just for the company. For people who never came. At 6:07 p.m., a text came in. From Ethan, one of the few cousins who never joined the chorus. Hey, I heard things. Are you okay? I didn't reply. Not yet. Not because I was being cruel. Because for once I didn't feel obligated to comfort anyone but myself. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I whispered more to myself than anyone else. They'll feel it soon. Not the noise, not the absence of my voice, but the absence of what I gave that they never saw. I set the phone down and stood. I was going to make dinner. Not for 12 people, not for a potluck where no one thanked me, just for me, for once. It didn't take long for the silence to echo louder than any scream I could have given. 3 days after I canceled the payment, Jenna called. I let it go to voicemail. Hey, not sure if you're getting our messages. We noticed something weird with the mortgage. Maybe it's a glitch or something. Mom says the payment didn't go through. Just let us know. No apology. No recognition. Just confusion like I'd accidentally tripped over the power cord of their comfort. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine. Not the cheap boxed kind they used to mock me for liking, but the expensive bottle I'd been saving for a special moment. This felt like one. Not out of celebration, but out of reclamation. I sat at the window watching snow gather on the eaves. The same snow that would blanket the front porch of their house, that house in 2 days for Christmas Eve. I imagined Mom lighting the same peppermint candles I had sent her last year, the ones she never thanked me for. I imagined Jenna walking through the hallway in socks I had knitted. Madison is putting presents under the tree I bought on clearance and had delivered to their door the year she couldn't find the right one. Everything in that house had my fingerprints, but none of it had my name, and now none of it would have my presence either. The next day my phone lit up again. This time it was a group call, Jenna, Mom, and Kayla. I let it ring. Then came the text. Elaine, we're worried. If something's wrong, you should just tell us. Wrong. The thing that was wrong was them, and they knew it. I didn't respond. Instead, I reopened my exit plan and added a new section, emotional labor. The midnight calls when Kayla fought with her fiancé. The hours I spent editing Jenna's resume. The times I stood behind Mom while she sobbed about being forgotten while she quietly forgot me. I put a rough value on each one, not in dollars but in time. 45 minutes here, 2 hours there. Altogether hundreds of hours of invisible tending, of keeping peace no one thanked me for. On Christmas Eve I got dressed, not in festive red or green, but in navy and gray solid still colors. I didn't cook anything, didn't wrap any gifts. I simply took my car keys and drove. Not to them, to the notary, because sometimes healing looks like paperwork. I signed the formal withdrawal of my financial responsibility from the mortgage. The notary didn't ask questions, just slid the papers forward and said, initial here, and here, and here. Each pen stroke felt like breathing for the first time. Back in the car, I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just felt light, like someone had lifted a coat off my shoulders I didn't know I was wearing. That night, as they probably sat around the fireplace sipping cocoa from mugs, I bought the power flickered. I know because I got the notification from the smart system I once installed. Mom never changed the admin settings. Power system unstable connection. Heating paused. Interior temperature is 62 degrees and dropping. I turned off the alert. They'd figure it out. Eventually. At 10:34 p.m., I received an email. From Madison Pierce, subject. Where are you? Grandma kept asking. She didn't know. I didn't either. Are you okay? Madison, the only one who ever truly looked at me when I spoke. I sat with her message for a long time, then wrote, I'm okay. I just chose not to attend a celebration that forgot to include me. She replied, I didn't know they said that to you. I didn't reply, not because she didn't deserve one, but because sometimes clarity is a gift we must open alone. I turned off my phone, and I watched the snow fall. For the first time in years, I didn't wonder what was happening without me. I knew exactly what was happening, and for once, I didn't care to be part of it. 3 days passed, no reaction, no explosion, no frantic calls, just quiet. I pictured it all playing out behind closed doors. Jenna shrugged. Mom insists the bank made a mistake. Kayla was fiddling with the thermostat, not understanding why the house felt colder than usual. And the silence. That unfamiliar absence. I bet they blamed the Wi-Fi. But deep down they knew. You can't ignore the warmth until it's gone. You can't erase someone's presence and not feel their absence. The 4th day, Jenna finally called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her tone was tight, not concerned, controlled. Elaine. Hey. So, we're having some payment issues with the house. Just checking if you maybe updated something on your end, or if there's anything we should know. What she meant was, did you finally stop carrying us? And yes, I had, but I didn't respond. Not yet. I needed them to sit with it. to stew in that same limbo they'd left me in, wondering, second-guessing, refreshing the page over and over looking for an answer that wouldn't come. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I went to the community center. It was just a free jazz night and hot cider, but it was warm, gentle, real. People there asked how I'd been and waited for the answer. A woman named Margaret gave me a slice of her homemade cranberry loaf wrapped in parchment. I don't even like cranberries, but I ate it, every bite, because it tasted like something that had been made with care. I didn't think about Mom, or Jenna, or the voicemail. Not until I got home and saw the email. Subject line: Notice of delinquent payment, Asheville property. I clicked it open slowly, like peeling off an old bandage. Dear Ms. Bishop, this is a reminder that your mortgage payment due December 20th has not been received. Late fees will be assessed if payment is not made within 10 days of the due date. Please contact us immediately to resolve this matter. Funny, they used my name, the legal one, the same one on the deed, the same one everyone conveniently forgot when calling the house Mom's place. I took a deep breath, and I smiled. This wasn't about revenge, this was about visibility. For the first time, they'd be forced to see me not as a convenience, not as an emergency fund, not as some dependable background character in their show, but as a person with agency, with limits. The next morning, I texted Madison. Do you remember what chair you sat in on Christmas Eve? She replied 5 minutes later. At the table. Yeah. Why was there an empty one? No. They added a folding chair for Uncle Lou. I stared at the message, and then I sent her one more line. That's how I knew I was never invited, not even by accident. She didn't respond. Not immediately. But a few hours later, she sent me a photo. A blurry picture of the family room. In the background, the thermostat screen. It read 62 F. I didn't say a word. And yet part of me hoped they were all huddled under blankets wondering why the house felt wrong. Why wasn't the heat working? Why the walls once filled with music and laughter and lights now echoed faintly? You can't measure absence in degrees, but you can feel it. You can feel it in how long it takes for someone to notice you're gone. That evening Mom called. Not Jenna, not Kayla. Mom, I answered. Her voice was sharper than usual, less warm, more performative. Elaine, we've been trying to reach you. The house, something's wrong with the heating, and I thought maybe since your name is still on the, you know, since you take care of those things, I cut her off. Calm, quiet, surgical. I used to. What I used to take care of it. I stopped. There was silence. Then almost with a laugh as if she didn't quite hear. You stopped paying the mortgage? Yes. But why? This time I smiled. Because you told me I wasn't welcome, and I don't pay for spaces I'm not allowed to enter. Another silence. Then Elaine, come on. That wasn't meant that way. We just needed a quieter Christmas. You know how chaotic things get? Then maybe it's time you learn what quiet feels like. I hung up, not out of cruelty, but out of closure. I didn't need her to grovel. I didn't need them to apologize. I just needed to stop apologizing for existing. So I didn't answer when the phone rang the next morning, or when it rang that afternoon, or that evening. I let the silence do the talking. By day 2, Jenna's texts had changed from vague concern to clipped questions. Are you getting these? We're trying to understand what's happening. Please don't do something you'll regret. Something I'll regret. That was rich. But the real surprise came on day 3. A knock. 3 short raps. Hesitant. Not angry. Not demanding. Just unsure. I peeked through the front window half hidden behind the curtain. Kayla. She stood on the porch bundled in a gray peacoat, her breath fogging in the cold. In her hands, a thermos. In her eyes, uncertainty. I opened the door just enough to lean into the frame, She blinked. Hey. I didn't respond. I, brought you some tea, she said, holding out the thermos like a peace offering. Chamomile. Thought you might need it. I looked at the thermos, then at her. Why are you here? She hesitated. Mom said you've been acting off. The house is cold. That something's wrong. I nodded. Sounds like she's noticed the heating bill. Kayla flinched a little. She's worried. No, she's inconvenienced. The wind stirred between us, tugging at the edge of her scarf. My scarf. One I hadn't seen since last winter. I remembered leaving it on the hook by the door and remembering how it disappeared. I pointed. Is that mine? She glanced down. Oh. Yeah. I found it in Mom's closet. Of course she did. You want to come in? I asked flatly. She looked surprised. Sure. I stepped aside, let her pass. The house was warm not because of the heat, but because I'd lit candles earlier, cinnamon clove, something comforting. She stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, unsure whether to sit. Go ahead, I said, motioning toward the couch. You've sat there plenty. She perched on the edge like it might bite her. I sat across from her. No small talk. You want to ask something I said? She exhaled slowly. Why now? What do you mean? Why did you stop paying for the house? I tilted my head. Why did you all stop treating me like a person? She blinked. I didn't say anything about you, she said. No, I replied. You didn't. You were just quiet while the others made decisions about my worth. That's not fair. Neither was Christmas Eve. Kayla looked down at her hands. We didn't mean for it to go that way. It didn't go anyway. It was planned. I stood, walked over to the console drawer and pulled something out, an envelope, worn slightly torn at the corner. I handed it to her. She opened it slowly. Inside, the Christmas card I had sent last year. The one with the golden border and the words, "You're always welcome" on the front. She read the note inside aloud. Dinner's at 6. Come as you are. Love, Elaine. It never got to us, she whispered. I know. I found it in Mom's recycling bin the day after. Kayla's face twisted. Guilt, confusion, maybe even shame. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was tired of being the one who cared more, who invited first, who forgave first, who paid first. She sat in silence. No defense this time. I took a breath, let the room settle. Then I said, I'm not angry at you, Kayla. I'm just done. She looked up. With all of us. No, I said softly. With the version of me you all invented. The convenient one, the dependable one, the silent one. I'm not her anymore. She nodded slowly, tears brimming but not falling. I think I understand. I believed her, but that didn't change things. She stood, gently set the thermos down on the coffee table. I should go. You should. She paused at the door. Do you want me to tell Mom anything? I thought for a moment. Tell her the heat works fine. It just stopped warming the wrong people. The door closed behind her with a soft click. I didn't cry. I poured myself a cup of the chamomile she'd brought. It was lukewarm, but it tasted like peace. And peace, I was learning, didn't need anyone's permission to exist. It was 2 days after Kayla's visit when Madison called. Not texted, not emailed, called. I hesitated before answering, unsure what version of her would greet me on the other end, the compliant daughter who followed Jenna's lead, or the quiet observer I used to read bedtime stories to, back when her mother left her here just for the weekend, and the weekend became a month. I answered on the 4th ring. Hi, Aunt Elaine, she said, her voice small. I hope this is okay. I sat down, heart cautious. It's okay. What's going on? A pause. Then, did you stop paying for Grandma's house? I exhaled slowly. I did. She didn't gasp, didn't push. Instead, she asked, Is that why everyone's acting so weird? I smiled faintly. That depends. What does weird look like to you? Mom's tense. Kayla won't look up from her phone. And Grandma, she's been cleaning everything. Like obsessively. She reorganized the pantry by color. I think they're all waiting for something to fix itself. Things don't fix themselves, I said gently. Sometimes they fall apart so the truth can breathe. Madison was quiet, then said, "Can I come over?" Of course. That evening, she showed up with a half-empty backpack, a knit cap pulled low, and cheeks red from the cold. I told them I was going to Maya's, she said, stepping inside. Technically true. I gave her the same couch Kayla had sat on, but this time the silence between us was lighter. Willing. She asked me questions no one else had bothered to. Did you always pay for the house? Yes. Why didn't anyone ever say thank you? I shrugged. Gratitude requires awareness. She frowned. But didn't they know they knew the result? Not the effort. She curled her knees under herself and hugged a pillow. That's messed up. I nodded. It is. Later, she helped me slice apples for a pie we weren't baking for anyone. No audience, no performance. Just cinnamon brown sugar and shared space. And when she finally said, "I'm sorry they treated you like a ghost," I had to excuse myself to the hallway for a moment. Not to cry, but to breathe, to steady the tremble in my chest from being seen, truly seen for the first time in years. The next day I got a letter. Not from Jenna. Not from Mom. From the bank. A second notice, firmer this time. We are following up on our previous notice. Failure to resolve this delinquency may result in foreclosure proceedings. I folded the letter, placed it gently in a drawer, and made a decision. That evening, I typed up a formal notification to the family group email, the one they only used when planning trips I was never invited to or splitting checks I always ended up covering. Subject: Final update. Regarding the Asheville house. Dear all, per your repeated omission and recent verbal confirmations that I am not welcome, I have ceased all financial responsibility for the property at 428 Briar Hill Lane. Effective immediately, the mortgage, utilities, and taxes are no longer under my care. I have attached copies of the deed, including the equity breakdown, which shows my contributions over 24 years. You may coordinate amongst yourselves moving forward. Respectfully, Elaine Bishop. I didn't add emotion, just facts. I didn't need to scream. Let them sit with it. Let them read each line in stunned silence, knowing this wasn't a threat. It was a release, an unbinding. The following Sunday, I took Madison to the farmer's market. She helped me pick out pomegranates and asked if we could try painting again like we used to when she was 8. We set up brushes by the kitchen window and painted side by side. Mine was a cluster of bare winter trees. Hers was a bright orange house with curtains that looked like open arms. Is that your dream home? I asked. She shook her head. It's yours. My hand froze mid-stroke. You deserve somewhere that feels like it wants you back, she said. And in that moment I realized something: I didn't need to reclaim the house. I needed to reclaim myself. Because maybe the real home isn't a place. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's knowing that you finally stopped paying for the privilege of being ignored. Kayla stayed for almost 2 hours. Long enough for the tea to go cold. She didn't ask for forgiveness. And I didn't offer it. But when she left, there was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Not regret exactly, but recognition. Like she'd finally seen the version of me that existed beyond duty. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Until the phone rang again. It was Mom. Not Jenna. Not Kayla. Just her. I let it go to voicemail at first, expecting the usual performance. But this time it was different. Her voice sounded not soft, not warm, but unsure. Elaine, I'm not calling to fight. I think we should talk. I'll be at the house around noon tomorrow, if you're willing. She didn't say please, but it was close enough. I didn't clean, I didn't rehearse. I just let the day happen. When she arrived, she wore the same coat she'd had for a decade, navy blue wool with a velvet collar. It used to look regal. Now it just looked heavy. Like everything she carried had finally started to show. She didn't knock. Just stood on the porch until I opened the door. I didn't invite her in. Not right away. She looked at me like she wanted to say something clever, some opener, but found nothing. I stepped aside. She walked in quietly, glancing around like she'd forgotten how the walls looked when they weren't decked in garlands or gilt. I sat on the armchair. She took the couch, where Kayla had sat the night before. There was no small talk, just her eyes scanning the books on the shelf, the cold tea mug, the photo of me and Dad fishing from a pier in '94. Then she said, "You meant it, didn't you?" I nodded. "I did." She laced her fingers together. They shook slightly. "I guess I always thought you'd just keep doing it. That you didn't mind." I raised an eyebrow. "That I didn't mind being invisible." She winced. "No. I just. You never said anything. I shouldn't have had to." She nodded slowly. "Fair." We sat in that heavy, almost honest air for a while. Then she said it, the question I'd been expecting, dreading, needing. Why now? I took a breath. Because I finally realized love doesn't mean endurance. It doesn't mean setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. A silence. Then softly, "I didn't mean for things to get this bad." "Maybe not," I said. "But you watched them get this bad. And that's the same thing." She looked down at her hands. "I wanted a peaceful Christmas. And instead, you exiled your daughter." She looked up, eyes glassy. "I didn't think you'd walk away." "I didn't either," I admitted. "But then I heard my voice in that voicemail, the one I didn't leave. The one you all made for me. And I realized I'd become a ghost in a house I paid for." She looked stunned. "Elaine, I'm not looking for an apology," I interrupted. "I'm not here to reopen wounds so we can cry and promise to do better." "Then what are you here for?" I met her gaze. "To set terms." She blinked. "Terms. If we're going to have a relationship," I said calmly, "then it will be built on respect, not default, not tradition, not because we're family. You don't get access to me out of habit. You earn it." Her lips trembled. "And if I can't?" she whispered. I smiled. Not cruelly, just honestly. "Then you'll have peace, just not my presence." That landed. It was the first time I saw her age in real time, like years folded onto her shoulders all at once. We sat there for a long time. Eventually she stood, walked to the door, paused, then said something I hadn't heard in over 30 years. "You were always the strong one." I didn't say it enough. I nodded once. Then she left. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse in some heap of release. I just made myself a cup of tea, cleaned the counters, lit a candle, and let the quiet settle in like an old friend. Sometimes peace doesn't come wrapped in closure. Sometimes it comes when you finally accept the apology that was never going to arrive and stop waiting for it. New Year's Eve arrived without a whisper. No invitations. No awkward group texts. No carefully worded posts tagged #family first. And for the first time in decades, I didn't wait by the phone pretending I wasn't. Instead, I baked cornbread, lit the candles I used to keep stored for company, watched snow gather on the porch railing, let my silence stretch not as a punishment, but as a decision. I was no longer the emergency plan, no longer the reliable just-in-case name on utility bills, leases, and Christmas rosters. I was no longer the chair you only pull out when yours is broken. The day after the new year, I received an envelope. No return address, just my name in Jenna's handwriting, tight slanted, still trying to control the narrative. Inside was a check, the exact amount for January's mortgage payment. Folded inside was a sticky note. "We get it. This is us trying. No signature, no love, no apology." But it was something. Not redemption, not reconciliation, recognition. I didn't cash the check. I made a copy, though, taped it to my refrigerator like a souvenir from a country I no longer planned to visit again, but was glad I once saw clearly. Later that week, I had lunch with Margaret from the community center. We laughed about her disastrous attempt at gluten-free brownies and shared stories about things we thought we'd be too old to start ceramics, memoir writing, and dating after 60. It was simple. It was real. On my way home, I passed the old house. The lights were off. A for sale sign sat crooked in the snowbank. The porch was bare. No wreath, no garlands, just a single dangling strand of lights fluttering uselessly in the wind. I didn't stop. I didn't slow. That place never belonged to me. I only made it livable. And maybe that was the lesson. Sometimes the spaces we pour ourselves into, the people, the homes, the rituals were never meant to hold us in return. They only reflect us, as long as we keep feeding them light. Spring came early that year. In March, I took the last box of inherited clutter to Goodwill. I left behind my mother's ceramic angels, 3 unopened fondue sets, and a stack of holiday place cards with names written in gold ink, mine never among them. On my way out, I saw a young woman holding a toddler struggling with a stroller. I held the door open. She smiled, grateful. Thank you. That was it. A small moment, a kind one that asked nothing but gave something back. That was the difference. I no longer wanted grand gestures. I just wanted real ones. One afternoon, Kayla texted, "There's an open mic night at the community center. I think I want to read something. If I do, will you come?" I replied with one word. Yes. Not because I owed her. Not because I'd forgotten. But because I remembered what it felt like to stand alone in a room full of people who claim to love you and still feel invisible. I didn't want that for her. Or for me. That night she stood on stage and read a piece called "The Chair That Was Never Pulled Out." Her hands shook, but her voice didn't. Afterward, she found me in the back row. "I didn't name you," she said quietly. "You didn't have to," I said. Then she asked, "Can we try again?" And for the first time, I didn't answer with what was expected. I said, "On my terms." She nodded. That was enough. These days, I no longer wait for invitations that don't arrive. I make my table. Sometimes it's just me and a cup of tea. Sometimes it's friends who ask how I am and wait. Sometimes it's silence, but not the kind that hurts, the kind that heals. And now and then I think back to that December morning. The moment my mother said, "We all agreed you're not welcome at Christmas." And I smile. Not because it didn't hurt, but because that sentence was the door I didn't know I needed to walk through. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.